When I met you, I admit my first thoughts was a trick. You look so good, huh? I suck on your daddy's dick.
Alright, so here we are again with another album review, and this time, shout out to Randy M, who requested me to review 1994's Notorious BIG, Ready to Die. So, I mean, I could go into depth on each and every track, right? But here's the thing. We've all seen this. I mean, we've all listened to this album, right? Like, even if you're not a rap fan, you know that this album exists, right? So you've listened to it, or you've at least heard people talking about it. Like, it's a classic, right? Even we're almost gonna hit. It's 20 years, right? 20 years, or 20. I mean, almost 25 years for this album. 26. Man, it's been a long time. Um, and I mean, this album still ages really well. So I gave it the week, right? I gave it the time. I didn't just go off of what I remembered about the album. I gave it the time, and I said, okay, let me listen to this again as, like, an adult because I've listened to it over the years, right? Obviously, it came out in '94. I was a kid. I think my dad used to listen to it, so I listened to it then. And MTV Raps was still around, so I remember seeing the Juicy video, which a lot of people don't know the name of that song. They just remember it was all a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine, right? And so Juicy is the name of the song. So the thing is then I listened to that album later in life still, even after uh, Life After Death came out, right? I would still go back and listen to this album. So you figure that dropped in '94, and then like '97, Life After Death dropped, and then I've still listened to these albums well into the 2000s because they were classic hip hop. So uh, if we start off with just the tone of the album, like the intro is kind of messy because it's like, but it kind of tries to tailor or show you. Wow, Jesus Christ. Man, y'all need to start watching my videos so I can get some new frames. Um, it gives you the kind of like a kind of a story of Chris Wallace's life, right? And so there's a lot of interesting stuff going on. Um, and even like in the middle of the album, he has little interviews where he talks about, oh, I started rapping at 18, but then he talks about all the stuff he was doing, like he was robbing people, he was selling drugs, he was doing all the stuff just to make ends meet. And so the key thing of this album is that it gives you a lot of insight into like what it was like in the inner city growing up in the '80s, right? So he's born in '70 something and grew up in the '80s, right? And in '94, at the age of 22, is when he dropped this album, right? So his formative years, as they would call it, was the '80s. So it really gives you insight into what's going on. Um, and so the content is really raw. Like it's like a lot of themes and stuff like that that even now I'm probably just catching them for the first time because back then, even when I listened to this, in my 20s, it was still like this is good music, and I was just kind of vibing to it, and not really kind of understanding it. But taking a week to actually listen to it and really break it down gave me got more insight. So starting off with just things done changed. Now he's reflecting on how everything's different. And it kind of that song and Juicy are kind of tied in because it's like how he grew up and how things were then and then how things are now that he's like made some money and made a name for himself and he has a following and how, you know, things are just kind of full circle. He really never saw himself becoming this. Um, and then after that, he jumps right into like telling you about his life, with the songs like "Give Me the Loot," "Machine Gun Funk," "Warning," like all these other songs. And then it's a good blend of the criminal I was and the stuff I got away with, and then like now I'm an entertainer, but like I'm not gonna let you forget how I came up. I'm not gonna let anybody forget that I'm gonna be an entertainer now. And so I think this is a lot of um, what hip hop has gotten away from. Not saying that people don't still grow up in the struggle and become rappers, but it's more like that he did. For a fact he did. For a fact like him, Jay Z, and there's a bunch of other ones out there. Lil Wayne that grew up in very very bad situations and came out to be this entertainer, this person that like a lot of aspiring rappers would look up to, right? So, you know, a lot of you know the songs. There's only, you know, just like I did with the previous video, I'm gonna do all videos going on is break it down into different tiers of songs, right? Tier one, tier two, tier three. This album is vastly tier one. I mean, these are great beats. So of course, you know, I mean, Puff Daddy, you know, lead producer on the album, so we know that the beat selection was going to be crazy, right? Cannabis should have chose P Diddy instead of Wyclef for his first album, and things might be vastly different. So, like, let's just say, I mean, we're talking about this album. This album is something like 20 tracks, right? So, yeah, 19 to be exact. 19 tracks to be exact, right? So the majority of this is like ultra fire, a whole level of hip hop and rapping and such a smooth flow and like so effortless. And then there's like four songs which are kind of like they're not bad, they're just not as good as the majority of the rest of the album. And there's one song stands out that I just can't. And it's the way the song starts off, and everybody knows it, right? So there's a song on there called "Me and My Bitch." There's a part of the song, and it starts off, and it's at the very beginning of the song, and he says, "She looks so good, I'm gonna summarize it. She looks so good, I suck her daddy off." And that right there, that kills the song for me because never in my life have I ever thought that. Not once. No, not at all. I let me think. No. All right. So I'm not sure how that became a thing, or I'm glad it never caught on. A lot of other people were saying it. I don't know why did they let him say that. I don't know who was sitting there in the studio while he was recording his album and saying that. And saying like when he said that, I was like, oh, that was fire. No one. That's who. I don't know. I think they were just like, hey, we're just gonna let it go because nobody else said anything. Maybe they were afraid to tell him that, like, which is crazy because he was really just starting out. I could understand if you're 12 years in and you drop fire for 12 years and somebody's not going to tell you something's bad. Kind of like Kanye, right? Like, nobody's really going to stand up to Kanye and tell him that something is garbage at this point, except the fans. But the people in the studio, they're just going to freaking egg him on and tell him, like, oh, that's fire, everything he's doing, everything, right? So that's the only song I would put in tier three, and it's really just because of that. Because I think that song actually, even though I put it there, it fueled a lot of other rappers to tell stories about like their girlfriend or whatever that they lost, right? So a song that kind of really comes to mind is "Renee" by the Lost Boys. Mr. Cheeks is rapping that song and like you know about this girl named Renee, and I met one day. Like a lot of y'all probably know that song too, but it's like he that I think like there's a lot of songs, and if I sat here, I'd probably think of some more. But like they're fueled off of that song. There are probably some songs before too, because I mean, like obviously rap didn't start with him in '94, it started before them. But like I feel like that song on such an iconic album probably fueled a lot more songs like it, right? So the tier two songs though, respect. I don't know, like the whole reggae hook thing. I kind of just didn't really dig, but it's not bad songs. Like I said, it's just not as good as the other 12 that I got written down here in tier one. Friend of mine, like I get it. I think it's like the first time him and Little Kim did a song together. But like, I mean, it was all right. Suicidal Thoughts. This is really kind of depressing. So the flow of it, like kind of the flow of the album, but not. I don't know. Like I just don't really. That's not really one that I throw on when I like think about throwing on a Biggie song. And then just playing. Look, this is another time when he said that he would choose certain things over certain R&B chicks, and I'm like, really? No, those are not. Those things don't compare. Like RuPaul versus like I think it was like Tiny or Escape or Flying from Escape. Like, come on, really? Are we doing this? Are we really doing this? No, you're not doing that. If both of those items were standing in front of you, you would choose the Escape one. We all know this, so I don't know why you're even trying to. I don't know. Maybe they made you mad, or maybe they tried to say your music wasn't that good, or whatever. You thought you would get back at them. It didn't get back at them. I mean, they were short lived, and we barely remember them. We only know Tiny because she's married to Ti, and they have a show together. But we probably would have forgot about her. Honestly, I didn't even know. I'm gonna tell you, I never knew that she was actually in Escape because I don't watch that show. I don't really watch reality TV. I never knew that she was in that show in that group until like I think I saw a clip from that show, and then somebody else flashed me back something. I watched it on YouTube, and I was like, "Oh, that's her. She was in Escape." But whatever. I can't even name an Escape song right now. It would take me a long time to think. Anyway. Um, so those are the four songs that are kind of like they're just not as good as the other songs. They're not as good as Unbelievable, which is a freaking fire track, right? Not as good as like Everyday Struggle and Juicy and One More Chance. Like all these songs, like it's like 12 of these songs that are just iconic and they flow so good. And so like these songs in the album breaking up in between those songs, it's all right because the flow is excellent. It's outstanding, right? So it's not so much these songs are bad. There's no bad songs on this album. There's questionable choices, no bad songs. They're just not as good as the other ones. Other than that, though, if you have never heard this album, you definitely need to get this. If you need to listen to this, if you consider yourself a hip hop fan and you have not heard this, which I know a lot of people are, like there's people that are born, now, like and stuff like that, like 10 years old, stuff like that, and they listen to all these other rappers, right? And they have not listened to stuff like this. You need to go back and listen to Notorious B.I.G. Ready to Die. Came out in '94, and you're probably saying, "Oh, that's like old man hip hop." Look, this shit is classic. This is some classic shit right here. This is the this is like if hip hop had like a Beethoven equivalent, right? Like we're talking this level. If we're talking like they call Michael Jackson the Godfather of pop. Like Notorious B.I.G. is one of the Mount Rushmore, that Mount Rushmore of hip hop, questionably, like easily. I know a lot of people argue that maybe there wasn't enough music, but like the two albums, right? And honestly, Life After Death is technically three albums because it's a double CD. But I'm not gonna argue debate that right now. It's you've got enough, and I think it's just how easy he was able to put together this material and like back to back. I mean, very few people have given you back to back, like arguably tier one albums, and he managed to do it in the '90s, '94 and '97. So you need to go back and listen to this. If you have not listened to it into a while, and you're like 10 years removed, you need to listen to it now. Anyway, I'll see you next week. I'll be doing Drake's mixtape that just came out, and then I'll be getting back to the list of suggested reviews. But anyway, shout out again to Randy M for asking me to review this. All right, and I'll see y'all next week.